Commander Zelthar had been stationed at Sentinel-7 for 12 cycles, and in all that time nothing unusual had ever happened. The monitoring station floated in the silent darkness at the edge of explored space, its sensors sweeping the void for anomalies that never came. The duty was boring, predictable, and safe. Zelthar liked it that way. The alarm changed everything. It started as a soft chime barely noticeable above the hum of the station's systems. Zelthar's 4 eyes focused on the display screen, where a small red dot had appeared at the very edge of sensor range. His scaled hand moved across the controls, requesting more information. The computer processed his command and returned data that made his throat sacs tighten with confusion. A vessel, single ship, approaching from uncharted space. Zelthar leaned closer to the screen. Ships did not come from uncharted space. There was nothing out there except empty darkness and unexplored star systems. The Galactic Coalition had mapped every civilization within 1,000 light years, and beyond that, sensors had detected no signs of advanced life. Yet here was a ship, moving with purpose and precision toward Coalition space. He initiated a deep scan. The results made even less sense than before. The vessel's trajectory was perfectly straight, ignoring the gravitational pull of nearby stars and the natural drift of solar winds. It moved as if space itself did not affect it, following a course plotted with impossible accuracy. No known species had navigation that precise. Zelthar checked the computer again, hoping he had made an error. The screen confirmed what he already knew. The ship was real, and it was getting closer. Following standard protocol, he activated the automated warning system. The station's transmitters began broadcasting in all 47 languages recognized by the Coalition. The message was simple and clear. Identify yourself, state your purpose, or turn back. The transmission repeated every 30 seconds, growing louder with each cycle. Minutes passed. The red dot on the screen continued its approach, unchanged and unwavering. Then the communication panel lit up. Zelthar's breath caught. The unknown vessel had received the transmission. It was acknowledging the warning. He waited for the ship to alter course, to slow down, to provide identification. His training said this was the moment when peaceful contact began. The red dot kept moving. Same speed, same direction. It had heard the warning and chose to ignore it. Zelthar sent a priority message to Coalition High Command, his hands shaking slightly as he typed. He upgraded the warning system to Threat Level 3, adding more urgency to the automated messages. The transmitters now included legal codes and territorial boundaries, explaining in precise detail that unauthorized entry into Coalition space was a violation of galactic law. The vessel acknowledged this transmission too, and continued forward. Hours crawled by. Zelthar watched the red dot grow larger on his screen as the unknown ship closed the distance. He ran every scan available to the station, trying to learn something, anything about the vessel. The hull composition was unlike any alloy in the database. The energy signature did not match known propulsion systems. Even the ship's size was strange, barely larger than a small frigate, too small for a long-range exploration vessel from an unknown civilization. When the ship crossed into Coalition-monitored space, Zelthar activated Threat Level 5. This was serious now. The warnings shifted from diplomatic to military. Messages explained that Coalition defense forces would respond with appropriate measures. Weapon systems would be authorized. Force would be used if necessary. The acknowledgement signal came back immediately. The vessel had heard every word. It understood the threat. It did not slow down. Zelthar's communication panel exploded with incoming messages. High Command wanted constant updates. Defense Fleet Theta was being mobilized. Admiral Kresheva herself was taking command of the response. 6 warships, the pride of the Coalition military, were changing course to intercept the unknown vessel. Science teams were being assembled. First contact protocols were being reviewed and updated. Through it all, the red dot advanced with mechanical certainty. Zelthar studied the trajectory again, running calculations that made his scales prickle with unease. The ship was not just approaching Coalition space randomly. It was heading directly toward Sentinel-7, toward him. The course had been plotted with such precision that the vessel would arrive at the station's coordinates within a margin of error smaller than the station itself. This was not exploration. This was intention. He upgraded to Threat Level 7, the highest warning short of open warfare. The automated system now broadcast in all known languages, plus mathematical sequences, making clear that the vessel was in violation of multiple galactic laws. It detailed the firepower that would meet any hostile action. It gave final chances to turn back. Every transmission was acknowledged. Every warning was received and understood. The ship came closer. Gelthar armed Sentinel-7's defensive weapons, something he had never done in 12 cycles of service. His hands moved across controls that had gathered dust from disuse. Targeting systems activated, energy banks charged. He sent one final message to High Command, his voice steady despite the fear building in his chest. The vessel is not responding to any warnings. It acknowledges every transmission but makes no course corrections. Current speed and trajectory will bring it into weapons range in 6 hours. Admiral Kresheva's battle group will not arrive in time to intercept. He paused, watching the red dot pulse on his screen like a beating heart. It heard every warning we sent. And it's still coming. Admiral Kresheva's flagship cut through space at maximum speed, but she knew it would not be enough. The unknown vessel would reach Sentinel-7 before her battle group could intercept. She studied the tactical display with 3 of her eyes while the 4th watched the crew scrambling to prepare for potential combat. In 40 years of service, she had never encountered a situation like this. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the deep resonance of her species. The tactical officer responded immediately. "Unknown vessel is maintaining approach speed. No deviation from projected course. Sentinel-7 has armed defensive systems and is standing by. 5 hours until the vessel reaches weapons range of the station." Kresheva's tail twitched with frustration. Her battle group would arrive 30 minutes too late. If the unknown vessel proved hostile, Commander Zelthar would face it alone with only a monitoring station's light weapons for defense. She had already ordered him to evacuate if the situation became critical. But the stubborn old warrior had refused to leave his post. "Give me everything we know about this ship," she said. The science officer brought up a holographic display. The vessel rotated slowly in the air, rendered from the limited sensor data they had collected. It was small, perhaps 60 meters in length, with a design that looked primitive compared to Coalition standards. The hull was smooth and dark, marked with strange symbols that the computer could not translate. "Analysis suggests the ship is very old, Admiral. Construction techniques appear outdated by several centuries based on what little we can scan. However, the hull material is completely unknown. It resists our sensors in ways that should not be possible with primitive technology." Kreshva studied the image. "How can a primitive vessel resist advanced scanning?" "We don't know, Admiral. The composition is not in our database. It might be natural materials we've never encountered, or it could be technology we don't understand disguised as primitive construction." Another officer spoke up from the communications station. "Admiral, we're still receiving acknowledgement signals from the vessel. It's receiving all our warnings. The linguistic team has been analyzing the response pattern. They believe the ship's computer is translating our messages and understands them perfectly. Then why isn't it responding?" Kresheva demanded. "It is responding, Admiral, just not in the way we expect. Every warning we send gets an acknowledgement. The ship is telling us that it hears us. It's just not obeying." The tactical officer interrupted. "Admiral, we're in position to fire warning shots. The vessel is now within range of our forward batteries. Permission to demonstrate our capabilities?" Kresheva considered carefully. Firing on an unknown vessel could start a war, but allowing it to continue unchallenged showed weakness. She made her decision. "Fire 3 warning shots. Place them across the vessel's bow, close enough to be impossible to miss but far enough to avoid damage. Let them know we're serious." The flagship's weapons discharged, sending 3 brilliant energy bolts across space. The tactical display tracked their path, showing them streak past the unknown vessel with meters to spare. It was a perfect demonstration of coalition accuracy and power. The unknown vessel adjusted its course. For a moment, Kreshva felt relief. They were finally responding. Then she saw the adjustment on the display and her blood went cold. The vessel had moved by centimeters, just enough to avoid the energy bolts by a slightly wider margin. Then it had returned to its original course as if the warning shots were merely obstacles to navigate around, rather than threats to take seriously. "By the ancestors," whispered the tactical officer. "It calculated the trajectory of our weapons mid-flight and adjusted to avoid them. The reaction time is impossible. Our own ships can't do that." The science officer was frantically working at her station. Admiral, I'm detecting something. The enhanced sensors are finally penetrating the hull. I'm reading life support systems, basic but functional. There's atmosphere inside, standard oxygen-nitrogen mix. Temperature is within normal ranges for carbon-based life. How many crew members? Kresheva asked. That's the strange part, Admiral. I'm only detecting one life sign. A single organism. This vessel crossed unknown space with only one being aboard. The bridge fell silent. Every species in the coalition used crews for deep space travel. The isolation would drive most beings insane. The risk of equipment failure was too high. One crew member was suicide. The science officer continued, her voice shaking slightly. Admiral, I've analyzed the life sign. The biological signature doesn't match any species in our database. This is something new. Something we've never encountered before. Kresheva felt her scales tighten. A new species traveling alone through uncharted space, ignoring all warnings, demonstrating technology that seemed both primitive and impossibly advanced. She opened a direct channel to High Command. This is Admiral Kresheva. The unknown vessel contains a single member of an unidentified species. It has demonstrated the ability to react to our weapons faster than our own ships. It understands our communications but refuses to comply. I am recommending activation of Protocol Delta. Protocol Delta. First contact with a potentially hostile unknown species. It had only been activated twice in Coalition history, and both times had ended badly. The response from High Command came quickly. Protocol Delta approved. Proceed with caution, Admiral. Do not fire unless fired upon. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Kresheva turned to her communications officer. Open all channels. Broadcast on every frequency. Make it clear that we want peaceful contact, but that we will defend Coalition space if necessary. The message was sent. The unknown vessel acknowledged it immediately and kept coming. Time to Sentinel-7? Kresheva asked. 4 hours, Admiral. The vessel will arrive first. We're still 30 minutes behind. Kresheva watched the tactical display, where the small red dot representing the unknown vessel moved steadily forward. Behind it, her 6 warships pushed their engines to maximum, trying desperately to catch up. Ahead, Sentinel-7 waited alone in the darkness, a single monitoring station facing something the galaxy had never seen before. All ships, battle formation, she ordered. If this goes wrong, I want us ready. The tactical officer looked up from his display. Admiral, I've been running calculations on the vessel's deceleration pattern. It's been slowing down gradually for weeks, maybe months. The precision is incredible. At current rates, it will come to a complete stop exactly at the border of Coalition space. How is that possible? It would require calculating the deceleration burn decades in advance, Admiral. This ship has been planning this exact approach for longer than some of our crew members have been alive. Kresheva stared at the red dot on her screen. A single being, in a small ship, traveling through unknown space for decades, planning every detail of its approach with inhuman precision. What kind of species does that? What kind of being endures that journey alone? And more importantly, what did they want? The unknown vessel stopped exactly where Coalition space began. Not approximately. Not close enough. Exactly. The border was an invisible line defined by ancient treaties and mathematical coordinates, and the small ship hung in space with its nose mere centimeters from that boundary. It did not cross. It simply waited. Commander Zelthar stared at his sensors, hardly believing what he was seeing. The vessel had traveled across uncharted space, ignored every warning, demonstrated impossible precision, and now it sat perfectly still at the edge of legality. It had stopped because the border said to stop. This makes no sense, he muttered to himself. Why come all this way just to wait? Admiral Kresheva's battle group arrived in a thunder of engines, taking up defensive positions around Sentinel-7. 6 warships, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon, formed a protective sphere around the monitoring station. Every weapon was charged. Every shield was raised. The unknown vessel sat in the center of their crosshairs, small and dark and silent. Kresheva opened a channel to all ships. Hold your fire. Activate Protocol Delta, Stage 2. Diplomatic channels are now primary, science channels secondary, military channels on standby. On Sentinel-7, Zelthar received a priority message from High Command. The Council itself was watching now, waiting to see what would happen. First contact specialists were standing by. Linguistic experts had prepared hundreds of mathematical and visual communication methods. Everyone was ready for the next move. The unknown vessel made it first. A transmission cut through every communication channel simultaneously. It was audio only, no video, no data, just sound. The voice that came through was strange, making noises that seemed difficult and harsh. It spoke slowly, struggling with words that clearly did not come naturally. This coalition. Yes, this border. Yes, stop. Correct place. Zelthar's translator struggled with the words. The grammar was broken and simple, like a child learning to speak. But the meaning was clear enough. The unknown vessel was asking if it had reached the right location. Kresheva took control of the communication. This is Admiral Kresheva of the Galactic Coalition Defense Fleet. You have reached the border of Coalition space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. There was a long pause. When the voice came back, it sounded more confident, though still heavily accented. My name, Captain Sarah Chen. I represent humanity. We come for first contact. We wish join Coalition. Every display on every ship showed the same thing. Database searches running at maximum speed, looking for any reference to humanity or Sarah Chen or this strange species. The results came back empty. No records. No previous contact. No references in any historical document going back 10,000 years. We have no record of your species, Kresheva said carefully. Where do you come from? Another pause. We come from Earth. We detect Coalition transmissions 127 years ago. We send ship to meet you. To say hello. 127 years. The bridge crew of every ship exchanged shocked looks. The science officer on Kresheva's flagship ran quick calculations and her face went pale. Admiral, she whispered, if they detected our transmissions 127 years ago and launched immediately, their home system must be over 100 light-years away. At their current technology level, that journey would take centuries, Kresheva finished. She opened the channel again, her voice showing rare uncertainty. Captain Chen, how long have you been traveling? 89 years, Chen replied. The simple answer struck like a physical blow. 89 years. Subjective time. We use cold sleep technology, generation ship design. We know. Journey is long. We prepare. Zelthar felt his throat sacs close completely. 89 years. This being had been traveling for 89 years. The Coalition's fastest ships could cross that distance in months with faster-than-light drives. This species had done it with slower-than-light technology, spending decades crossing the void between stars. You don't have faster-than-light travel? Kresheva asked, though she already knew the answer. No, Chen said simply. We have light-speed engines, very slow. But we have time, we have patience, we hear Coalition transmissions. We know intelligent life exists. We decide, worth the journey. The science officer was frantically analyzing the data streaming from the human vessel, now that it had dropped some of its sensor-resistant shielding. Admiral, this ship it's incredible. The technology is primitive by our standards, but the engineering is brilliant. Everything is designed for extreme longevity. Redundant systems upon redundant systems, self-repair mechanisms. This vessel was built to function for over a century without resupply. Kresheva studied the small ship on her display. It looked old and worn, like something that had traveled through hell and barely survived. Scan data showed patches and repairs all over the hull. The engines bore signs of complete rebuilds. This vessel had suffered catastrophic damage and kept flying. Captain Chen, your journey must have been difficult, she said carefully. The laugh that came through the speakers was rough and tired. Difficult? Yes, very difficult. We lose main engine 40 years ago. Take us 3 years to repair. We think maybe we die, but we fix. We continue. We promise. We arrive. Humans don't break promises. There was something in that voice, something that made Zelthar's scales ripple with an emotion he could not name. Not fear exactly. More like recognition of something dangerous disguised as determination. Admiral, the communications officer interrupted. We're detecting more ships. Long-range sensors show 6 additional vessels entering this sector. They're broadcasting the same identification codes as Captain Chen's ship. 6 more ships, 6 more humans who had traveled for decades through empty space. They had sent 7 vessels on a journey that might have killed them all, just to say hello. Kresheva opened a private channel to High Command. We need to bring this to the Council immediately. This species is either very brave or very foolish. and I'm not sure which option is more concerning. The council convened within the hour, using faster-than-light communication to bring together representatives from across coalition space. They reviewed everything, every scan, every transmission, every piece of data about the humans and their impossible journey. Finally, the council chairman spoke. Invite Captain Chen to Sentinel-7. We will conduct formal first contact protocols. Admiral, maintain defensive positions but show no hostility. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Kresheva opened the channel to Chen's ship. Captain Chen, the Galactic Coalition accepts your request for diplomatic contact. You are invited to dock with Sentinel-7 for formal first contact procedures. Will you accept? Yes, Chen replied immediately. Thank you. Very excited. We travel very long way for this moment. As Chen's ship began moving slowly toward Sentinel-7, Zelthar asked the question that everyone was thinking. Admiral, what kind of species commits to a journey like this? A journey that takes most of a lifetime, with no guarantee of success. No way to turn back, no hope of rescue if something goes wrong. Kresheva watched the small human vessel approach the station, moving with the same precision and care it had shown throughout its approach. I don't know, Commander, but I think we're about to find out. And I'm not sure the galaxy is ready for the answer. Captain Sarah Chen stepped through the airlock wearing a pressure suit that looked like it belonged in a museum. The material was thick and rigid, held together with visible seams and mechanical joints. Her helmet was simple transparent material with basic electronics visible inside. Every piece of equipment she carried showed signs of repair and age. But it was Chen herself that caught everyone's attention. She was tall, bipedal like several coalition species, but her proportions were different. 2 arms, 2 legs, all positioned for efficient movement. Her eyes faced forward, giving her binocular vision like a predator. When she smiled in greeting, her teeth showed the mixed pattern of an omnivore, with pointed canines that could tear meat alongside flat molars for grinding plants. Commander Zelthar felt an instinctive wariness. Every evolutionary marker on this being said one thing: apex predator. Chen removed her helmet and spoke in Galactic Common, her accent still heavy but her words clearer than before. Thank you for meeting with me. I apologize for my appearance. The journey was long and our equipment is not as advanced as yours. Admiral Kresheva stepped forward, her diplomatic training overriding her instincts. Welcome to Sentinel-7, Captain Chen. Your journey is remarkable. Please tell us about your species and why you've come so far. Chen's smile widened. Where should I start? Humans are from Earth, a planet in a star system you probably have no records of. We evolved as persistence hunters, chasing prey across long distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. We learned early that we might not be the fastest or strongest, but we could outlast anything. She pulled out a small device, a primitive holographic projector that flickered to life. Images appeared in the air, showing a blue and green planet. This is Earth. We had no contact with other intelligent species until we detected your transmissions 127 years ago. Until then, we thought we might be alone in the universe. The images changed, showing primitive rockets and early space stations. We started exploring space with chemical rockets. Very slow, very dangerous. Many died, but we kept trying. We reached our moon, then our neighboring planets. We built colonies on Mars and stations throughout our solar system. Zelthar leaned forward. But you had no faster-than-light travel? How did you expect to explore beyond your system? Chen's expression became serious. We didn't expect to, Commander. We accepted that the universe was too big for us to explore in a single lifetime. Then we heard your transmissions and everything changed. Suddenly we knew we weren't alone. We knew there were others out there, other species, other civilizations. We had to meet you no matter the cost. So you built ships and traveled for 89 years, Kresheva said slowly. Did you know you would survive the journey? No, Chen's answer was simple and honest. We knew the risks: engine failure, life support breakdown, navigation errors, radiation exposure. Any of those could kill us. We built redundancies and backup systems, but there were no guarantees. I volunteered knowing I might die before arriving. A Calixian diplomat spoke up, his voice shaking slightly. But why? Why risk your life for contact with species you had never met? We might have been hostile. We might have destroyed your ship on arrival. Chen looked at the diplomat with those forward-facing predator eyes. Because it was worth the risk. Humans have a saying, Fortune favors the bold. We believe that meeting you, learning from you, joining the greater galactic community, that was worth any price. The science officer, a curious Centauri, approached with a scanner. Captain Chen, may I ask about your ship? Our scans show extensive damage and repair. What happened during your journey? Chen's face hardened with memory. 40 years into the journey, our main engine failed. Total catastrophic breakdown. We were drifting in empty space light years from anywhere. The cold sleep systems were failing. We woke everyone who had engineering skills and worked non-stop for 3 years to rebuild the engine from spare parts and salvaged materials. 3 years? The science officer's voice rose in shock. You survived for 3 years without your main engine? We had secondary systems. Basic life support, emergency propulsion. It was enough to keep us alive while we worked. We ate carefully rationed food. We recycled every drop of water. We took apart sections of the ship to rebuild the engine. And we succeeded. Chen pulled up more images on her projector, the inside of a ship cramped and dark, filled with tired faces working on massive machinery. These are my crew. Some died during the repair work. Accidents mostly. One died from radiation exposure when he had to work directly on the reactor core without proper shielding. He knew it would kill him, but he did it anyway because the ship needed him. The room fell silent. Every coalition member present understood sacrifice, but this was something different. This was commitment beyond reason. Admiral Kresheva asked the question carefully. Captain Chen, you said you lost your main engine 40 years ago. Why didn't you turn back? Your homeworld was closer than your destination at that point. You could have gone home. Chen looked at the Admiral with an expression that was both proud and sad. Because we told you we were coming. In our very first transmission, we said we were traveling to meet you. Humans don't break their word, Admiral. When we say we're coming, we come. No matter what. A security officer was reviewing data on his display, his face growing increasingly concerned. Captain Chen, according to our scans, your ship contains weapons. Multiple weapon systems. Maintained and functional throughout your journey. Why would a diplomatic vessel carry arms? Chen didn't hesitate. Because the universe is dangerous. We didn't know what we would find out here. We prepared for peaceful contact, but we also prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Every system on my ship was designed to function for the entire journey, including the weapons. You built a ship to fight a war that might last a century, Zelthar said quietly. We built a ship to survive anything, Chen corrected, and it did. Barely, but it did. A medical officer approached with biological scans. Captain, I've been analyzing your species' physiology. Your evolutionary history is concerning. Humans evolved as persistence hunters? That means you're built to chase prey over long distances without stopping? That's correct, Chen confirmed. Humans can run for hours without rest. We're not fast sprinters, but we have incredible endurance. In Earth's history, we could chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We never gave up the chase. The medical officer looked at Admiral Kresheva with poorly concealed fear. Admiral, this explains everything. Their journey. Their refusal to turn back, their determination to reach us despite every obstacle. This species is biologically programmed to never quit. They're persistence hunters on a galactic scale. Chen smiled, but there was something sharp in that expression. We prefer to think of ourselves as persistent friends, Doctor. We chased you across the stars not to hunt you, but to meet you. Though I suppose the principle is the same. We set a goal and we don't stop until we reach it. Admiral Kresheva's communication device beeped. A priority message from long-range sensors. She read it and her scales went pale. Captain Chen, our sensors detect 6 more human vessels entering this sector. Are they also here for first contact? Yes, Chen replied. We sent 7 ships total. We knew at least some might fail, so we increased our chances by sending multiple vessels. Looks like we all made it. 7 ships? 7 groups of humans who had spent their entire lives traveling through space for this moment. Zelthar thought about what that meant. A species that committed resources and lives to a century-long project. A species that accepted tremendous risk for the mere possibility of success. A species that didn't know the meaning of giving up. Captain Chen, Kresheva said slowly, you will present your petition to the full Coalition Council. But I must ask one more question. What will humanity do if the Council rejects your application? Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes became harder. Then we'll go home, build better ships, and try again. And again. And however many times it takes. Humans don't quit, Admiral. Not when it matters. Not ever. The Coalition Council chamber was the largest room Captain Sarah Chen had ever seen. Representatives from 43 species sat in a massive circular arrangement, each in their own environmental section suited to their biology. Holographic displays floated everywhere, showing data and translations in hundreds of languages. At the center stood a simple platform where Chen waited, still wearing her patched pressure suit, representing humanity before the gathered powers of the known galaxy. Council Chairman Thexel, an elderly Valorian with deep blue skin and wise eyes, spoke first. Captain Chen, humanity's petition for coalition membership has been reviewed. Before we vote, the Council has questions. Please answer truthfully. Of course, Chairman, Chen replied, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. A Zentari scientist activated a holographic display showing detailed star charts. Captain Chen, these are our military deployment patterns, trade routes, and diplomatic communication frequencies. How familiar are these to you? Chen studied the display carefully. Too carefully. Very familiar. We monitored your transmissions for 127 years before launching our ships. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, analyzed your technology. We wanted to understand who we were coming to meet. Murmurs rippled through the council. A Calixian security officer stood, his scales bristling. You spied on us for over a century? We listened, Chen corrected. All your transmissions broadcast freely into space. We simply received them and learned from them. We studied your history, your conflicts, your alliances. We wanted to arrive prepared. Another display activated, showing detailed analysis of coalition military capabilities. A war-scarred Draxian general spoke, his voice harsh. This is not simple observation, human. This is strategic intelligence gathering. You've mapped our defenses, calculated our response times, identified our strengths and weaknesses. This is what a species does before invasion. Chen met the general's gaze without flinching. Or it's what a species does before attempting first contact with unknown civilizations. We had no idea if you would be friendly or hostile. We prepared for both possibilities. We hoped for peace but planned for everything. Chairman Thexel raised a hand for silence. Captain Chen, you traveled for 89 years with limited resources and no support. Yet you maintained detailed surveillance capabilities throughout the journey. Why dedicate so much effort to monitoring us? Because knowledge is survival, Chairman. We were coming to meet species with technology centuries ahead of ours. We needed to understand you, to know how to communicate, how to behave, how to avoid accidentally causing offense or triggering conflict. We studied because we cared about getting this right. A Valorian diplomat leaned forward, her expression troubled. Captain, your determination is admirable, but also concerning. Let me be direct. What if we reject your petition? What if the Council decides humanity is not ready for membership? The chamber fell completely silent. Every eye, sensor, and visual organ focused on Chen. This was the question that mattered, the one that would determine humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. Chen took a slow breath. Then we would return home, honored that you considered our request. We would continue developing our civilization and technology, and when we felt ready, we would try again. How long would you wait? The diplomat pressed. As long as necessary. A decade, a century. However long it takes. We would keep improving, keep learning, keep building, and we would return. Humans are very patient when pursuing important goals. The Draxian general spoke again, his tone sharp. You would try again? And again? What if we never accept you? What if we decide humanity should remain isolated? Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted. Then you would have to enforce that decision, General. We would respect your borders and your laws, but we would not stop seeking contact. We would not stop trying to prove ourselves worthy. We would not give up. That sounds like a threat, another council member said. It's a promise, Chen replied firmly. Not a threat of violence. A promise of persistence. Humans don't quit when we believe in something. We don't walk away from goals that matter. You can reject us, but you cannot make us stop caring about joining the galactic community. A historical officer activated another display, showing human conflicts from Chen's data files. Captain, we've reviewed your species' history. Your wars last for decades. Your cities are destroyed and rebuilt repeatedly. Your resistance movements never surrender, even when defeat is certain. Is this accurate? Yes, Chen admitted. Humans can be stubborn, even self-destructive at times. We fight too long, hold grudges too well, refuse to accept defeat even when we should. It's one of our flaws. Or your greatest strength, Commander Zelthar said from his observation position. All eyes turned to him. He stepped forward, addressing the council. I was the first to detect Captain Chen's vessel. I issued warnings that were acknowledged but ignored. I watched this small ship cross impossible distances without stopping. I have studied the human crew's survival of catastrophic engine failure, and their decision to continue despite having an opportunity to turn back. He looked at Chen with a mixture of respect and unease. This species is dangerous, Council, not because they're aggressive, but because they're relentless. They set a goal and pursue it with absolute determination. They accept losses we would consider catastrophic and continue anyway. They don't know when to quit because quitting is not part of their nature. Admiral Kreshva stood as well. Commander Zelthar is correct. But I would add this. Humanity's relentlessness can be a tremendous asset. They came to us in peace, enduring hardships we can barely imagine, simply to say hello. Imagine if that same determination was directed toward defending coalition interests, toward protecting member worlds, toward standing against threats that make other species falter. A lengthy debate followed. Some council members argued that humanity was too primitive, too volatile, too different. Others pointed out that every member species had been primitive once. That diversity strengthened the coalition, that rejecting peaceful contact set a dangerous precedent. Finally, Chairman Thexel called for a vote. All in favor of accepting humanity as provisional members of the Galactic Coalition?